What are you invested in? Think about this. What do you care about most? What are you passionate about? Where's your heart? Why should you know that? Well, we're going to talk about it on this week's episode of Journey at Home. It is great to have you with us, by the way. Our goal is to make it simple for you to follow Jesus by creating helpful content that's going to make your life better. So hit that subscribe button and it will help share this content with more people. And now I want to go back to our question, okay? What are you invested in? Now, this is an important question for all of us to reflect on from time to time because your answer will define the legacy you leave in life. It's going to determine what you're known for. It's going to determine what people will remember you for. Now, if you're struggling to come up with an answer, okay, I've got a cheat code for you. Ready? There is a simple way to figure out what I'm most invested in. I just look at where my money goes. Because I know where my money goes, my heart always follows. And by the way, so does yours. For example, if you buy season tickets to watch your favorite football team, you will sit in uncomfortable and sometimes freezing conditions to watch them, won't you? Your passion, your interest, and your investment just follow your money. Here's another example. If you've got an older, inexpensive car and somebody says, hey, can I eat in your car? You're like, oh yeah, whatever you want. But if you've just bought a new, more expensive vehicle, you don't want people breathing in your car. You wrap kids in plastic before they get in. Why? Because your investment follows your money. The truth is, we're all invested in something. The question is, are you invested in things that last? Are you invested in things you actually want to be remembered for? Because I'm telling you, you don't get remembered for what you say or even sporadically do. You get remembered for what you invest your life in. So what are you invested in? What are you going to be remembered for? This is the final episode of our series, The Surprising View God Has of You. I've got two goals for this series. One has been to help you better understand who you are in God's eyes and His purpose for your life. And then two, I want you, if you're a part of our church, to see the role that we can play collectively as a church in creating a place where people clearly see and understand how God views them by the way that we love and serve them. So to catch you up, so far we've discovered that Jesus taught we're invited into God's family, that we're invaluable to God's work, that we're influential in God's purposes, what He's doing in the world. And today we're going to explore why Jesus invites us to be invested in God's plan. So here's my question. If you were to follow the clues of your money over the past 3 months or 6 months or year, what would your money show you're most invested in? In other words, where's your heart? What are you passionate about? What would your money show you're known for? Now, some of you may be arguing with me in your head right now that it's not fair to look at your money to figure that out because you do a lot of other things that make a difference. How you treat people, how you use your time. And I wouldn't argue with you. All of that does play a part. But I would argue that none of it impacts your investment and passion like what you do with your money. If you don't believe me, listen to what Jesus said. He said, don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth, which literally means material possessions, where moths and vermin or rodents destroy, where thieves can break in and steal it. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, where thieves don't break in and steal. In other words, Jesus is saying, you get a choice in where you invest your money. You can invest it in things that won't last here on earth, or you can invest it in things that last forever in eternity. Which brings up the question, well, what exactly does it mean to store up treasure in heaven? Well, you have to understand that Jesus taught that money is a tool that can be used to transform lives. And so anytime you use it that way, you have just made an investment that's going to live forever because people live forever. So his point is, if you follow me, part of being a Jesus follower is you invest in God's plan for the world. You invest in what God's doing in the world around you because when you invest in that, you're investing in something that's going to live on forever. And in the process, you actually become more passionate and more loving towards people. You become known for something you actually want to be known for. Because according to Jesus, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Where your money goes, your heart follows. So we're all invested in something. I think the question we should ask ourselves is, are we invested in something that's going to last? Are we invested in something that we actually want to be known for? Now, here's what I think is true about you. You want to be known as a generous person. You want to be a great giver who's known for doing good. Whether you're a follower of Jesus or not, this is probably true of you. And the reason I think that's true is because you get a lot of joy out of giving, don't you? But it's hard to become generous the way we approach being generous. Let me see if I can explain. There are two types of giving that people practice. The first kind is what I'll call intervention giving. So intervention giving is the, hey, let me give to fix this problem kind of giving. And it's what all of us in America naturally lean towards doing. And the reason is because intervention giving is emotional and the results are very measurable. It's why you're so good at it, by the way. I'll give you an example. Let's say you meet 5-year-old Susie who's going to bed hungry at night. She doesn't have a coat to wear in the winter. Maybe she lives in an abusive situation. And oh my gosh, it's just emotional to you, isn't it? It's just not right. It gets really personal for you. So you give and you see that Susie's going to get fed 3 meals a day and that she's got a coat to wear to school and that she's getting moved from her home to a safer environment. And you can measure the results of that so you feel really, really good about that. Now listen, intervention giving is a great kind of giving. I'm all for it. We actually do a lot of it as a church. Here's the only problem with intervention giving. Typically for us as individuals, intervention giving is spontaneous, sporadic, and sparing. In other words, if this is the primary way you practice generosity, you won't do it consistently because your heart's not moved consistently by stories. And if your heart isn't moved and changed, well, you're never going to become generous, which means you'll miss the opportunity to become the kind of person that you most want to be. Becoming generous is like every other worthwhile endeavor in life. It takes reps. You don't become a good golfer or a good communicator or a good teacher or fisherman or business leader without a lot of reps. And you don't become generous without reps either. But intervention giving just fools us into thinking, oh yeah, I'm generous, when what we've actually done are a few isolated generous acts, which is why the second type of giving is so powerful. This is what I call prevention giving. So intervention giving is, let me give to fix this problem. Prevention giving is, let me give to prevent the problem from ever happening. And this is way more powerful, but it is way more difficult because it is not emotional and you cannot measure the results. But I would argue it is far superior to intervention giving simply because it keeps the wrongs from ever occurring. You can think about it this way. Which organization should you give to? One that prevents child abuse or one that rescues children from abuse? One that helps kids of divorced families or one that prevents marriages from ever ending in divorce? Well, that's a trick question, isn't it? The answer is both. You do both. But if you had a crystal ball and you knew how it was going to play out and you had to choose one, you would actually choose prevention over intervention every time, wouldn't you? Because we'd all prefer that the pain or the problem or the wrong never occur. So think about this. Why don't we do this kind of giving more? Well, because it's harder. Intervention giving is spontaneous, is sporadic, is sparing. But prevention giving requires you to give systematically. It means you give generously and consistently, even though it doesn't feel emotional, and even though you can't immediately measure the results. The easiest way I know to illustrate this is to think about what it's like if you were to give or choose to give consistently to your church. Let's just say Journey. So my wife and I do this. We pick a percentage of our income every year, and we've automated that amount to be the first thing given every time we get paid. If you're anything like us, you can see some of the impact that your generosity makes. You get to hear the stories of life change. If you're around here, you see the baptism. You watch needs being met in our community. You watch the experience that some people have and the impact it makes on their lives. But here's what we can't see by giving consistently and regularly. We can't measure every year how many marriages were saved because God used our church to keep a couple together, so there was never a divorce. We can't measure how many people never fell into addiction, how many college students avoided regrets because they never walked away from their faith, since there was a church that cared about them enough to get them involved and engaged. We can't measure how many teen pregnancies didn't occur, how many students didn't struggle with mental health challenges because they had these group leaders in their life who loved them and guided them. We can't measure how many lives were spared the pain of losing a loved one in a DUI accident because somebody never got to the point where they were using alcohol to numb their pain. Now, there's plenty of intervention giving that happens here at Journey, and the stories are always emotional, and the results are very measurable. But we just can't measure how many unwise, hurtful, harmful decisions were avoided because you invested, and I invested regularly in the church. So I bring that up because those of you who've chosen to make generosity a priority, and you have picked a percentage of your income that you give away first every single time you're paid, and you progressively keep storing up treasure in heaven by investing in people, even though it's not emotional and you don't always see all the results. Listen, I just want to say thank you. I know it's not always emotional. I know it doesn't feel sometimes like you're doing anything significant. But you have no idea what a difference you make. You are using your money as a tool to transform lives, both through intervention and prevention. And you're making an impact you may never see in the lives of people you may never know. But I'm just telling you, God sees and God knows. So thank you for investing in God's plan through his church. And if you call Journey your church, but you aren't practicing that kind of generosity, I want to invite you to try it. And the easiest way to do this is just pick a time frame, okay? It can be a month, it can be 3 months, pick whatever you want. And then choose a percentage of your income that you automatically decide you're going to give first whenever you get paid. If you want to give it here, you can set it up through our app. You can go to givejourney.com. You can do it in about 30 seconds. It's easy. But I want you to hear me. You don't have to give here. However, there is some free advice I'm going to give you. If you don't trust the church you attend enough to invest generously in it, you should find another church. Never go to a church that you don't trust they're going to use your money well. Now, obviously, I think this is the best place I know to practice both intervention and prevention giving, which is why Jen and I have chosen a good percentage of our income to give back here. But listen, if you don't feel that way, that's fine. Just find a church you trust. Because the bigger question is this: what do you want to be known for? You'll be known for what you're invested in. Jesus said, where your money goes, your heart follows. Think about it this way. You've regretted a lot of money you have spent over the years. So have I. I bet you've never regretted an act of generosity. And I can promise you from experience, you never will. So if you want to be known as a generous person, you got to become systematic with your generosity. If you want to be known as someone who cares about people, you invest in the work God's doing in people. And in the process, you're going to find the joy that only generosity can bring is going to become a consistent part of your life. Generous people are systematic, priority, percentage, progressive givers. So don't just settle for intervention giving when it's convenient for you or when it's emotional to you. Just practice both, intervention and prevention giving. And invest both ways in God's plan and purposes in this world. And see what it does in the lives of the people around you, but more importantly, see what it does in you.